Hey, good evening, Jerry Upchurch here. Just want to get a note out to you. Continuing to read this great book called You Are the Placebo and Making Your Mind Matter. And gosh, it's just getting better and better. And we've all heard the phrase, tonight we're talking about crossing the river of change, crossing the river of change. And we've all heard the phrases that center around the fact that change your thinking, change your life. I know Brian Tracy's written books on that, John Maxwell's written books on that. Joyce Meyer has even written a book on change your life with your change by changing your thoughts and certain things like that, how successful people think, all sorts of phrases like that. We've seen them over and over and over. And what Joe Dispenza talks about is crossing that river of change. You know, how do you actually do that crossing that river of change? How do you do that? And yesterday's blog, I think it was yesterday, day before yesterday, I blogged on the fact that our thinking creates our choices create our actions create our experiences create our feelings, and our feelings create new thoughts. So it's a cycle like that. So what Joe is talking about is changing, and the first part of the book talks about sameness, the fact that we stay the same because 90% of our thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday. And I read where today I was reading, he said that of those 90% of the thoughts that are same as yesterday, 70% of those are negative thoughts. 70% are negative thoughts. So that is a huge number of thoughts. We think something 70,000 thoughts a day. 90% of them are the same as we thought yesterday, and 70% of those are negative in nature. So what he's talking about today is creating new thoughts to create new choices, and new choices create new actions, and new actions create new experiences. These new experiences create new feelings, and because of all of these new feelings and new experiences, then we begin to create more new thoughts, which create more new choices, which create more new experiences. And as we said yesterday, or day before yesterday, firing and wiring. He says what gets fired gets wired. So as we begin to fire these new thoughts and new actions and new choices and new feelings, they get wired. Firing and wiring. So once we electrify those thoughts that we have that create these new actions and choices and feelings, then our life begins to change. So that's really how change occurs, is by changing the actions we take based on the choices we make. Changing the actions you take based on the choices you make. And Dr. Joe calls that crossing the river of change. Crossing the river of change. So what I want you to do is think about what kind of change do you need to make. He says, it's not something that occurs overnight. He says we don't just waltz into a new change in personality. We don't just waltz into a new personality in a matter of moments, he says. We don't just go to it in a matter of moments. It takes time. So what I want you to think about is, what do you need to change in your life? And to change it, what new thoughts do you need to have? And those new thoughts need to create new choices that you have. What new choices every day are you getting up and saying, I've got a new choice today? And what, from those choices, what new actions are you taking? to create new feelings, which create an atmosphere of thought again. And it's wiring these neurons in our brains to create a different person. And he's written a book, I haven't read it yet, but it's called Changing You, or something to that effect. He says you've got to be a different person in the future than you are right now. And you can make that change, because continually firing new and exciting neurons in our brains will eventually cause those old repetitious neurons and choices and actions that we once took to dissipate. They'll go away. So with all that in mind, I want you to think about what you want to change in your life, why you want to change it, what new thoughts do you need to have to make those changes, what actions do you need to take to make those changes come about. One of those actions might be to just take a little quiz on why you're not manifesting things in your life now. So click on the link in the blog, take that little short quiz, it's free, and from there start making a plan for what you want in your life. Hey, be blessed, have a great evening.